What's up, everybody? We're here. It's been a little bit, hasn't it? I mean, look how long Jay's hair has gotten.
This is
I mean, my hair too.
This is Hippie Jay coming out.
Right, Hippie Jay.
Hippie Jay.
Welcome. My name's Indy, and that's Jay Powell from Powell Group Consulting, and welcome to Indie Game Business. We want to thank Tripwire Presents for sponsoring us this whole time. It's been amazing. And I would like to introduce Dwayne Waite Jr. He's the marketing director, games event at ReedPop. And the title of today's podcast is Creating an Integrated Marketing Strategy. We know how you love to hear about marketing. So, and also, Dwayne, if you want to unmute in the Discord, that would be awesome. There we go.
Excellent.
There we are.
Right. So let's start where we always start in the fun question, because no one ever has the same answer to this. Tell us how you originally got into the industry, and then walk us through your career up to this point.
Oh man, yeah. So I am one of those born and bred, marketing people, right? So did marketing activities in high school, growing up here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I reside now, through college. Went to college in North Carolina, a little small school called Elon, where I majored in marketing. And then from there, worked with a number of different agencies, started my own consultancy groups in lifestyle, technology, your innovation, type companies. From there, we wanted to move back to Pittsburgh, but I wanted to stay in the high tech, the innovative industries, and something that also kind of dealt with really tight knit, communities. And gaming, definitely fits that. So whenever we left North Carolina for Pittsburgh, I got the privilege to work at Shell Games, a video game design development company in Pittsburgh, specializing in virtual augmented reality, interactive experiences, connected toys, theme park attractions, like you name it. And from there, I spent the last, 6.5 years there, from doing all sorts of things, from your advertising, your influencer marketing, trade show and events, digital, copywriting, website copy, game store copy, working with, producers of positioning the games, working with the C-suite of positioning the studio. So a little bit of everything that deals with, your business to business activities, your business to consumer activities, and your branding and marketing initiatives. So then in January 2023, made the hard decision to leave Shell Games to come to ReedPop. If you're familiar with if you're not familiar with ReedPop, they are one of the premier brands of the event organizers for gaming and pulp culture in the United States. For your PAX East, your PAX West, your PAX Unplugged, which is mostly board games, EGX in the UK, and then the comic portfolio includes New York Comic Con, Emerald City Comic Con, Chicago Comic Con, Florida Super Con, all the Magic Cons, and your Star Wars Celebration. So we do a little bit of everything whenever it comes to gaming and pulp culture. And so just a couple months in, and we're still still getting my feet wet in a little bit of everything in terms of strategy, working with content, working with the teams, and things of that nature. So hopefully that was the quick route that you guys wanted to hear.
No, I completely forgot that you were at Elon. Were you a Phoenix, or were you one of the Crusade? What were they before the Phoenix? The Crusaders?
They were Fighting Christians.
Christians, yes.
Yeah. So Fighting Christians ended in 2001. Whenever they moved to the Phoenix, and so I'm a 08 graduate, so I graduated as a Phoenix. But I grabbed some Fighting Christian merchandise because it's a hot commodity now.
It's retro now. I mean, that's where my wife grew up, and so I was like, oh, that's right, you were at Elon. I actually saw the Elon bus coming back from somewhere when I came back from ECGC yesterday.
Oh, sure.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, go Phoenix.
we are talking about integrated holistic marketing campaigns. We do a lot of talks on here about various aspects of marketing, but let's dive into immediately. It's like, what is intertwined when you're talking about a holistic marketing approach? What all does that entail?
Yeah, so a lot, right? So whenever you're talking about a holistic or integrated marketing campaign, you are looking at your uh, all of your digital copy, so all of your straight up marketing, your collateral, how you put your stores together. You're looking at your public relations efforts. You're looking at your outbound efforts, whether it's going to events, advertising, any type of sales promotions, discounts to consider whenever your game is just being released, or if it's been out for a period of time and you're starting to see some slump. Like, how do you continue the life cycle for your game? To some of the newer activities, right? Your content marketing, working with influencers, your activities with other brands, like so co-branding, co-marketing efforts. So whenever you put all of this stuff together, all of these different bits and pieces, all of these moving parts, then you can start building a strategy for your games or for your studio. Another thing really quickly of how I like to look at a holistic campaign is in four different areas: your awareness, your consideration, your acquisition, whether it getting people to buy your game, or getting to work with other partners for your games or experiences that you want to create for them, and then any type of retaining or retention strategies. So whenever you look at those four different subjects, you can cross all of those across all those activities that I mentioned before.
So where do you even start? If we're looking at, and let's look at it from the sake of premium games, so PC, console, VR, because we all know that mobile is a whole different beast in and of itself. And so focusing on the premium type content, where should you start, and what are the most important pieces to put together in that strategy?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So first, it's deciding, how do we describe, what this game is? What is this game? Why would people want to play it? Why would people want to talk about it? And most importantly, who are those people, right? So it's a lot of research up front about what exactly this game is, and who is that target market that is going to want to play it. And then you could start formalizing, start researching some questions about how you're going to describe it, how based off of tests and hopefully research how other people are describing it, finding out what those discrepancies are, and then answering those discrepancies to put together a campaign.
So for the last couple of days, I was down at the East Coast Game Conference, and we were going through, and I was doing pitch review sessions. So we would have teams come up and they would pitch their game, and I would break down and crucify their pitch decks. But so one of the teams comes in, it was a couple of guys out of Fort Bragg, actually, and they actually had a SWOT analysis in their pitch deck. And I was like, oh my God. But the one thing that they didn't have that you just touched on is when you're talking about understanding who is playing your game, you're talking about marketing personas, which
Right.
are obviously very important. So walk us through real quick how you develop, what a marketing persona is, and then how you actually develop that as part of your strategy for marketing.
Yeah, no, fantastic question. So, just to make sure everybody's aware, whenever talking about a SWOT analysis, that's your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So, your strengths and weaknesses are internal, your opportunities and threats are external. And so, whenever you are trying to create a marketing persona, you are trying to think about who are the people that are going to buy this game or buy your experience, or the type of people who you would like to work with, right? So that's both B2B or B2C. So whenever you are looking to create a persona, you're really looking first at your strengths and weaknesses. As a company or as a game, what is this game, or what are we as a studio really good at? And then you can start developing your target market. That is this going to focus on 18 to 24-year-olds, or 25 to 34? Is this going to is this price point going to be closer to your middle income, upper middle? What type of discretionary income are they looking for? The type of game being played, is this a game that you can quickly pick up and put down? Is this going to be a quick a casual game, or a game that's going to take some grinding? Because then you start to develop not just your demographics, your income, gender, age, whatever, but now you're looking more specifically at those behavioral traits. So who are going to play these games? Why are they playing it? What gives them the reason to play it? Why will they enjoy it? Why will they come back for more? And why would they tell others? So whenever you're building that persona, you can pretty much build a fake person. We always call you create fun names for them, right? So it could be Gary the Gamer. Gary the Gamer is our target persona. He's between the ages of 25 to 34. He's a doctor, so he doesn't have too much time, but whenever he plays at night, he likes going together with his other friends. So we're creating this multiplayer experience that's a little bit pricey because of the gameplay, but this is our person, right? So whenever you can build what that persona is, you could have that intelligent conversation at a pitch deck discussion with somebody like Jay, to say, like, here's our target, here is why, and this is why this game speaks to them.
I always like to think of marketing personas as that nice little combination of a D&D character sheet and then the intros that you see for these couples on House Hunters, where they're like, hi, right. I'm a part-time school teacher and my husband is a painter and we have a budget of $3 million for a house. And you're like, that's not, no. But I mean, that's basically it. You're making fake people and explaining, and it's so helpful because then you can sit down and say, okay, is Gary the Gamer, who's 46, on Facebook? Do I need to be promoting there, or are they on wherever else? But it is, if you want to make me smile during a pitch presentation, you show up with a SWOT analysis and then bonus points if you bring in marketing personas, because if nothing else, it shows publishers and investors that you're thinking about this stuff.
Yes. So, and it grounds you, right? It grounds you, so you're not, it's like, oh wait, should we be using Pinterest shuffles? Should we be using the new lemonade to get these? Like, well, why is your audience there? Like, who's going to be there that cares about your game? So whenever you look at the personas, like, no, would that person be scrolling Instagram stories looking for stuff, or are they going to be on YouTube watching their favorite content creator play these type of games? It gives you a better idea of how you build this strategy to promote your game or your studio.
It helps really narrow it down. And let me look directly into the camera and say this, because the market for your game is not everybody. That doesn't exist. It's specific types of people.
Exactly. Right. It's that old saying that if your product's for everyone, it's for no one, right? Yes. So you gotta have a target.
You got to figure that part out. So we can touch on why do you need to consider advertising. That was one of our questions, but I think a lot of us understand, well, the majority of us understand that you can't just flat out release something anymore. And the whole, if it's a great game, it will sell. That doesn't happen
Doesn't happen. Doesn't,
anymore.
yeah.
So, but when you're putting together a budget, and so, we look at a lot of teams and they have an idea of what they want to do for marketing, but they're going to go get a publisher. Or, especially in the case of VR, where you've done a lot of work as well, there aren't a lot of VR publishers. So a lot of these VR teams end up having to self-publish.
Mhm.
How much should you be looking to spend? Do you have to spend a ton of money on this, or what does a realistic plan budget look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So what's interesting with the gaming community like VR, it's still young. It's growing very rapidly. So what's interesting is that games that have come out years ago, especially the really good ones, they get a bump in their life cycle as new games are released, new hardware is released, because it's VR is still growing into that early majority phase of product adoption, right? So there's a product adoption cycle that has your early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards, right? For just like a quick capsule of what that looks like. And so VR is still very much maybe even in the middle of that early majority phase. And so going back to what I said before about those four pillars, awareness, consideration, acquisition, and then retention, it really, I know people hate this, they hear this, but it really depends on what your life cycle is for your game. So if you're just in VR, if you're just launching your game, you're going to spend a lot of your budget on awareness and consideration. Why is that? So whenever I was at show games, I always made the argument that whenever we're selling one game, we're also at a big event like a PAX or something. We're not just only promoting the game, but we may also be promoting the hardware, right? So this barrier to entry is not a $24.99 experience. It actually now is a $346.99 encounter, because these people might have to buy the hardware to get the software. So it becomes a much more valuable conversation whenever you think of it that way. And so the awareness and consideration aspect of your marketing budget is going to be extremely valuable because of where we are in the product adoption cycle. Now, as your game matures and you're building an audience within it, now you could move more intelligently and more strategically into acquisition and retention. So once they buy your game, how do they stay? Why do they stay? Are you giving them a reason to stay? Are you building a community? Are you giving out supporting merch? So there are additional considerations for you to make a decision on. And then that's both the acquisition and retention. So whatever you're looking at, what a marketing budget may look like, it is a matter of what channels you are going to be targeting. Your Google ads are going to have a lower type of CPC or cost per acquisition than some of the other networks. Facebook, Instagram can get pricing from time to time depending on the season. Your launch windows, everything goes up in price for your cost per clicks or cost per acquisition. It's still dependent on timing, the type of game, the type of audience you're targeting. Just like what Jay and I were talking about before, the more strategic you are with your target market, the more defined your target market is, you're going to be able to spend your marketing dollars smarter. And so looking at those 4 different categories of awareness, consideration, acquisition, retention, you could divide your budget. If you just throw out a number, if you have, $50,000, dollars for a marketing budget, you can see, okay, well, out of these 4, which ones are more important to me right now? And then from there, define what your key performance indicators are. Like, what does a good ROI look like if it's going to be awareness and consideration? Well, then, that's your views, your store views, your web views, your wish lists, and things of that nature. And then whenever you go to acquisition, obviously is people downloading the game. And then retention, the average play time, the share of voice across, digital and your PR efforts, how often creators and outlets are talking about or reviewing your game. And so that is a very long-winded answer that it depends. It depends on what your return on, what you want your return to be for your promotional efforts. For VR, some of those higher profile games, because of a saturated market, you're going to spend a lot up front for your awareness and consideration. But then as the promotion cycle moves, you can dedicate dollars to your acquisition and retention. And it's not just a linear progress or a linear progression. Like I said, some of the older games in the VR industry are getting a little bit of a bump because of more people coming into the market. So you may want to refresh some of your older games and go back into that awareness and consideration phase, doing some co-branding efforts, getting your games into bundles so more people can find out where what those games are. And if you're partnering with a new game that they're interested in, you're helping them with that discoverability of that experience.
All right, so I have 2 questions that came out of that.
Yeah.
One, so if we're looking at a premium game and I've got my PC, my VR game, whatever it is, it's launched on Steam, I've got people to buy it. Why am I worried about a retention marketing?
Yeah, so it is across the any type of industry. It is much easier to retain a customer than to get a new one, right? Your costs for getting a new customer is always going to be higher than trying to get a new one. So you want to retain your customers. Well, I guess it depends on your business philosophy. What I always think about of retaining and getting people to routinely come back to a game, it helps with your live support games, your games as a service. That's kind of what I've are thinking about in terms of a retention strategy of getting people to come back to buy merchandise, buy character clothes, or buy different types of DLC for that, because the margin of profit, or the margin for that the lifetime value, we finally found that word, that lifetime value for the person who stays with your games or the other games that you put out is going to improve over time, versus constantly looking for a new person where you'll see some diminishing returns as you continue to spend on your marketing. And so for a retention strategy for your players is important as you put out more games, as you develop more into your game. If a live support game or games as a service is a model that you're interested in,
and
that's
I
what
love
more of what I was looking forward to. So sorry, Jay.
No. I love that answer because it bleeds into 2 things that are becoming bigger and bigger now, and why developers need to be supporting these and encouraging this. But it's one with the mod community and one with user generated content, which is somewhat the same, but not always the same. But
Sure.
Those are a lot of times major reasons why people come back to games, even if the developer hasn't had a update or a DLC or something like that. Building on and encouraging and promoting your own mod community, that's a fantastic way. Hell, it's the reason I'm still playing Skyrim after 10, 12 years or whatever it's at this point. But I mean, that's exactly right. And that's the type of retention that people don't typically think of,
Mhm.
but it's very important. All right. So my next question was, you mentioned Google ads, and I think Google ads for games get overlooked a lot because it's seen as like too general. Am I going to be showing up in an ad next to the local hardware store that wants to sell me a weed eater? How effective versus some of the other social media options out there are Google ads compared to everything else?
Oh man, I mean they are effective because there are businesses where you're huge marketing teams, right? Where what people do every day is just work on Google ads, right? So there you can go down such a rabbit hole, and a good rabbit hole, mind you, of a comprehensive intricate campaign for your Google ads. So for example, let's say that you can do three different campaigns with Google. You'll do search, you'll do a discover campaign, which is a type of campaign that you could do in Google, and a performance max. Okay, performance max is one of the newer avid inventory in Google ads. You run search because no matter, well, you put in your audience, and if you have a newsletter, if you have some emails or some type of information that you are allowed to use, right? We're talking about privacy and GDPR and all that fun stuff. So if you have that first party or zero party data that you're able to upload, you can target to a minimum spec of that person in terms of or that cohort of what their interests are, what their affinity groups are, what their buying habits are, and using search. Anybody who interacts with a search campaign or is impressed upon a search campaign automatically then gets fed into the audience for your discover and your performance max campaigns. So if you're going to do any campaign on Google ads, always have a search one, and search can be as little as $15-$20 a month. Like you could put in your minimum spend, as long as the search is going to get impressions. The people who are interacting with that search will get fed into those other audiences. So that's really important to know, because the tools that Google puts out work together. Now your discover can go on your different websites, the Google ad network, and YouTube. So then if you're working with content creators, you're actually able to pinpoint the type of YouTube channels that you can put ads on, and those who are watching, those content creators, hopefully people who you're working with, or that they are watching, then you get that extra dose. So now you have search, now you have discover, and now performance max is super interesting, because now it's that machine learning algorithm or that machine learning activity that Google says, give us your minimum spend, your maximum spend, and your max cost per click, and we will do the work for you. The magic is behind doors, so you don't know exactly how we're finding these people, but you're going to get some crazy good results. So whenever you're having those three tools work together, you're going to have some pretty impressive numbers, as long, again, as you're targeting the right audience, you're using the data at a good, efficient, intelligent manner. It's going to be very beneficial for you to do that.
See, Dwayne has the best answers for everything. This is why I love this. All right, so let's jump real quick to a very important situation now, because we are hopefully out of pandemic world, and live events have been coming back for the last year. We're basically in year 2 of everything coming back. They get expensive, obviously,
Yes.
especially since we haven't had to spend anything on them in like several years. You're
Right.
talking, if you're going to go out to GDC, even if you don't get a booth, if you just want a all access pass, by the time you figure in flights, hotels, you look at $7,000-$10,000, and that's
Right.
if you're coming from the US. So how do you qualify and quantify which events around the world you should be going to, since there's basically one a week somewhere?
Yeah. Again, great question. And it all depends on your strategy. If your strategy is that you're looking for to get in front of your consumers, right? You want to get in front of the players. Well, then you're going to do some back end research. Who are the people playing your game? Who are the people visiting your sites? Who are the people interacting with you on social? Well, where are your content creators? If you're using a content creator like management system, you can see where their audiences are. And so now you can kind of figure out a loose footprint of where your players are. From there, you can then look at these events. Are they going to be in the U.S., West Coast, East Coast, South, or North or South America? Are they mostly in Canada? Are they South America? Are they in Europe? So then looking at those events, okay, well, is this one going to be more dev focused, or is this one more mobile focused? Is this one more B2C? Is this one more salesy? Or is this one more get your hands on it and play? Because the experience of the event itself is very important. And then from there, you can start looking at costs. It was like, okay, well, here are those events in all of that criteria that fit. Now we're crunching costs, and from the cost, you could then look at, well, here are our goals for going to this event. If it's going to be a hands-on event, we want, in a 3-day period, we want, 400 people to play our game. Okay, well, if it's going to cost this and it's 400 people, we're looking at a, cost per play of X, right? So now you're actually to put, cost amounts like is $30 per demo in terms of your cost, your cost-based pricing, does that make sense to go to that event, right? In some cases, it might, because of the visibility, the joy of seeing people going to events, and those people telling others. Now you could put a value of that share of voice. Well, if this person costs $30, as a cost per play, but their share of voice is 4,000 people. Okay, well, now we can kind of multiply that share of voice is kind of $120,000 in terms of cost-based pricing, because they played it and they're sharing it to others who are going to rely on their voice. That might make sense. So now you're able to loosely put some relationships between the cost of the event and what your key performance indicators are, like the numbers. Like if you want playthroughs, if you want interviews, I was like, okay, well, based on our cost-based pricing, if we get 5 interviews, that's $200 per interview. Okay, that might make sense based on what we're spending on PR. So you're able to create these cost tables so you can make an intelligent decision of going to or not going to X number of events.
So one of the questions that apparently I have a new keyboard and everybody in the world just heard me type all this stuff in. The benefits of dumping your coffee into your keyboard during the last conference. All right. So from our Discord, it's like, I know some events target gamers and others are more business-like. Are there good ones that do both, or do I need to pick and choose which ones I go to?
There are there are some, yeah, long live the coffee keeper. Yeah, there are some that do both. And for example, Gamescom does both in Cologne, Germany, right? They have a B2B section, they have a B2C section. B2B starts early, interlaps with B2C, and then you have B2C. You can have presences in both, or if you have one. If you have one in the other, you're able to go back and forth as an exhibitor and maybe have meetings in the B2B area without having a booth, and then having a booth in your B2C area. There are even some smaller ones. I'm a huge fan of GDEX that happens that coincides with Origins now in Columbus, Ohio, and they do both. Where your B2C, stuff, or your B2C and education stuff is during the day, but then you have some industry nights and some events that are real B2B specific after the show, that you can have meetings and talk. So my recommendation would be, if you are able to curate your experience at these events. So if something is B2C related, those speakers, panels, are going to be interested in talking industry, right? I mean, we've all gone to B2C things and have been drained just of all the talking to our consumers and players, which is fun and rewarding. But it's also nice to be able to talk shop from time to time, and you could create those experiences. So just because the framing might not be there for both doesn't mean that you can't have both. It might just take some more initiative than others to get that dual experience.
So I adore Gamescom. It is my favorite. If someone told me I could only go to one conference for the rest of my life, it would be Gamescom, because I love Cologne. And then they've done such a good job for years of us business people can have our little spot where it's somewhat quiet and you can have a meeting, and then the hordes of fans come in, like up to 300,000 people a year come in for the consumer side. And the best part is, if you're going for business, always block off about half of your day on Wednesday, because that's the day that they let the business people into the consumer section before the consumers get there. And so you can actually walk around and enjoy stuff. But I've never been to GDEX. I should probably look into that one, because that's one I've actually never been there.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's in their 7th year. It started from the by the Multivarious group, and yeah, they do a great job. It's a fun one. I recommend it.
I'm gonna check that out. Sorry. So the next step from that, is there a benefit to digital events? Of course, I'm going to say there's a benefit to digital events. I've run 14 of them. What about hybrid events? What are the disadvantages when it comes to digital events, and then the hybrid events that are trying to do both?
Well, one, based off of industry research, is that people aren't that big a fan of hybrid. They as in consumers or event attendees, the rate of FOMO, fear of missing out, is high enough that there are stronger disapproval marks for hybrid than there are for purely digital and purely physical. And that one is fascinating, right? Because you would think that to have a digital and physical part would make sense, because you're getting as many audience members as you can. But as we were talking before the stream, having a product for everyone is having a product for no one. And so hybrid kind of fits that gap. That there are some digital moments that make sense. Like for PAX, for example, we do some of our keynotes. We stream some of those, and for PAX Arena, like the esports stuff, we stream just because the audience is there and it makes sense. Like that's something that the esports community is used to. And for keynotes are used to having a digital and physical part as well. But you know, on the flip side, those audiences are that's what they want to tune in for. They're not going to do the exhibit floor. They're not going to do the meet and greets, and that's where for ReedPop and those PAX events, that's where like the life is, right? And so we're not going to do some live stream of the exhibit floor or have a digital portion of the exhibit floor because that doesn't quite match the fans' expectations. And so whenever you're looking at hybrid, it's fascinating. I'll try to find that report so you can put that out on the Discord. It was I think Event Insider or Event Industry, something that like either put a line in the sand that you're going to do just digital or just physical with some minor components being digital, because hybrid is not it is not the clearest path forward as we anticipated coming out of the pandemic.
It is so from my experience on the consumer side, it's like what you all do with PAX is one thing. It's like being able to stream content out to people who aren't able to make it or who are on the other side of the world or who are just very interested or whatever. That's one thing, and that's fine. It's the situation where a lot of these conferences try to say, okay, we're going to do like meeting systems and B2B stuff. We're going to be live and digital. The problem is you can't sit in these conference centers and have a quiet conversation meeting over a laptop or a phone, and then the wireless doesn't work, and then all the other issues that come out of conferences. I have yet to see a business to business hybrid event be effective. The few times I tried it, I ended up by the third meeting just sending everybody I had as a online meeting a note saying, here's my Calendly, let's do this next week, because it's so next to impossible.
It's tough. So
we've got another question from the Discord. What can game dev focused conventions do to improve their value for developers who have to travel to attend?
Oh man, that is a question that we are actively tackling, right? Like how do we provide more value to studios? How do we provide more value to developers that not only do they consider coming to their events, that it becomes a no-brainer, right? In that consideration set, it's like, well, yeah, of course we're going to go to the PAXs, and not just West, we're also going to do East, and we might even do Comic-Con, or we might even do GDEX, or we'll do the Gamescom PAX West gauntlet of going back to back weeks.
No.
People did it, and it's
I know they did. I think they're crazy.
Yeah. But I think there is a lot to do. We have a lot of great ideas of what to do in terms of creating more cohesive programs for them to meet with creators. I think is very important in terms of the relationships with their games and discoverability and visibility of their games, of the event, and increase value for the creators as well. Definitely working on that. Networking opportunities. I think in the next couple years, and we're already seeing it, that co-branding and the collaborations between studios is going to grow. And so trying to figure out if there are, or what type of programs or activities make sense. I know my girl Amy Allison, she's fantastic. Just if she comes to me, it's like, well, I really want to do PAX, but it doesn't make sense for us to show game X there because it's already out or it's not ready yet. It's like, well, what if I can introduce you to studio A, B, or C that after 2 or 3 months after game X is released, you guys might be able to bundle together, and now you have a face-to-face person that you have talked to. It's like, well, that might make a lot more sense, right? So you turn it into not just a demo possibility, but a collaboration piece and a business meeting that may not have been visible to to her or the Amy's of the world before. So being a catalyst of business activity versus a activity in general, if that makes sense. How do we make sure that we accelerate the promotions of the games or the studio activity instead of being one step in that process?
And Marioki.
And Marioki.
So if anyone out there does not know what Marioki is, I will admit I didn't know until last year when I was at Nordic, and oh my God, it is awesome. There is a guy or a team or whatever who has taken, it's karaoke, but it's done in a big room of your peers who are cheering you on, and they've taken regular songs but replaced all the lyrics with things pertaining to video games. And so half of the enjoyment is singing along with whoever's on stage, and the other half is trying to figure out which game that song is actually talking about. And it is, oh my God, so fun, and I highly recommend it for every event ever. But touching on those face-to-face meetings, I think a lot of times too, developers or folks who haven't done a lot of conferences don't necessarily realize how few meetings it takes to justify a conference, because it's like every year and this year I was absolutely 100% set on the fact that this was going to be my last GDC ever, because it's just San Francisco. But I come out of it and, we've got 2 or 3 different new clients lined up. And so even if you're spending, 5-10 grand on a conference to get there, you really only need 1, sometimes 2 deals to come out of that, and you're way in the black. And so it's one of those things that you always have to keep in mind, but you also have to track it too. It's like you need to make sure when you're going to these events, you're archiving, okay, I spoke to this team or this person, and this partnership or this collaboration or this deal came out of it. That way, when you look back the next year at going to GDC and you're like, I am not going to that show again, you're like, oh crap, we got like a whole bunch of deals out of it. And so
right. Well, and also too, I'll say there's also that there's also those activities or those that perspectives that's hard to quantify, right? Let's say you go to these shows, every year, and then for the next 2 you don't. Then be like, oh well, I wanted to talk to so and so, but I haven't seen them in 2 events. I wonder. Let me just talk to somebody else, because I don't know if they might not be in a position anymore in which they once were, right? So there's perspective too, right? That it might just be worth it to go because, as the social scene sometimes says, it's better to be seen than not. So I think that there is.
We would call it waving the flag.
That's it.
You have to go to the event, even if you don't need anything, just to wave the flag and let people know that you're still alive.
That's it.
That is absolutely,
and that's more important than what people think as well.
Yeah, it really is, because it's like a lot of it comes down to obviously the meetings that you're booking, but also some of these chance encounters. And I will still say to this day, do not book a conference solely hoping you're going to have a chance encounter that's going to make your company. You need to, as Amy just said, you need to be planning and preparing for these events 6 months in advance to maximize the efforts.
Yes.
As much as I hate to see that, yes, you're
Well,
right.
And to go deeper into that, not just talking to other studios or other developers, like talk to the event organizers. Like, we're not that far away. Like, talk to us. Like, email. Like, just as much as you think we pester you to come to our events, like we want you to come to us. Like, well, hey, we're working on a strategy. Is it what's going on here that's worth us coming, and we'll talk. Like, our sales team wants to hear, like, what are your strategies, what are your questions, what are your concerns, so we could build experiences that are worthwhile for you, right? Because it's not just the fans. Obviously the fans are incredibly important, but the fans will come if you do, right? And so how do we make sure that it's a win-win for the studios and games that they're showcasing, and the people who are going to be there for those games on a B2B or B2C level? We want to hear that. So do not be afraid. It's like, well, are they really going to talk to us? Blah blah. It's like, oh no, we'll respond. And and if I guarantee you, if you reach out, you will get a response back.
And Amy's other tip, which is also a really good one too, supporting and sponsoring a nonprofit mixer is a good way to participate adjacent to an event. So there's things to do. Typically, at least once these events get to a mid-size or bigger, that they may not be specifically at the event or part of the official event, but there's things going on around as well. Correct. That you need to keep in. And so speaking to the whole talk to the event organizers, even before we started running the indie game business stuff, we had been brought in to consult on several events over the years. And event organizers, no matter how big, no matter how small, always have the same issue. It's like, how are we going to get, it's this gigantic chicken and egg thing. If we're doing consumers, we have to have games and companies that they want to see. If we're doing business to business, we have to have publishers for the developers to meet with, but the developers aren't going to show up unless they know there's going to be publishers, but the publishers aren't going to show up unless there's going to be developers. And so it becomes this whole thing. And so by, yes, exactly, engaging with the event organizers and saying, hey, this is the type of stuff that we need, this is the type of stuff that we're looking for, you can really, really help your chances there.
That's it. Yeah. Just be proactive. It's like, oh, well, I wonder if they're going to do this. Well, ask, right? Yes.
You never know.
You never know.
All right, so we've got about 5-10 more minutes. If you've got questions about marketing strategies, I know we've gone way off the deep end on conferences here, but whatever. If you've got questions about holistic integrated marketing strategy and how to bring everything together, pop them in chat. Let's real quick jump to content creators. How do you compensate them, especially on newer platforms? Because I learned about one this week. Pick, is that a new? I literally just learned about this thing. But how, especially when you're looking at newer platforms, how do you go about compensating creators, or at least knowing how much you may need to compensate them?
Yeah, no, great question. For many folks who are already working with content creators, one thing to realize. Well, no, let me start back up. It's still the wild, wild west, right? With working with content creators and looking at costs and compensation, and so the content creators will throw numbers at you, seeing what you like, what you don't like. There are brands and studios that throw costs out to content creators to see what they'll take. Some are, it's a wide spectrum out there. So what I like to do, I like looking at what our previous spend has been, as well as looking at different research reports for the game industry. In comparison to the D2C, so the direct-to-consumer content creator, industry, we tend to trend about 20 to 30% lower than the D2C group. So, for example, if a content creator for fashion D2C brand is getting 300 to 400 bucks per Instagram post, to do the same around gaming, will trend on average to be 20 to 30% lower than that. And so going with that benchmark, you can then start looking at, it's like, okay, well, general gaming is going to be more expensive than your niche, like your VR, for example, because there are less creators, there's fewer content, and so those VR creators are going to be even lesser than the D2C, and again, about 15 to 20% less than your general gaming folks. And so looking at that benchmark and extending it out across your platforms, now you can look at, okay, well, which platforms are more important to us? Oh, Kick. Okay, yeah, I thought you said
I was
Kick.
close. That was
Yeah. Kick is that Twitch alternative. Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Yeah. So now you're looking at what channels are more important to you. So maybe TikTok is going to be a priority. Well, now across the platforms, you can choose to do some type of premium costing for you, or premium pricing for TikTok versus the rest of the channels. I know me personally, I tend to value YouTube creators or the YouTube content more than others, because it seems to be more transferable across all the platforms versus just TikTok or just Instagram or just whatever plethora of platforms are out there. Another thing that I like to do is to so working with them, trying to figure out what they like to do. If they just want to play your game, and you're just doing discoverability purposes, you can shoot a key over and wish for the best. But the best type of content creator programs are going to be those long-term deals. Long-term meaning minimum 6 to 8 months. I've been seeing some multi-year deals too, which is really exciting to see for creators. But long-term for both parties, we'll look at 6 to 8 months, just because of the promotion cycle for games. And that itself may have a deal. There may be some freebies in there, but the deal itself of having kind of like a retainer for the creator to put out X amount of content a month across X amount of platforms, and there you can kind of develop what that relationship looks like versus the cost per channel. Because then whenever you're looking at creating that long-term relationship, that lifetime value goes up a lot more of the content per channel. You'll see better content because now the creator is not looking for that paycheck or waiting for that paycheck. They're now just creating the content that pleases the brand or pleases the game and pleases its audience or their audience, that's at number one, because a delighted audience watching a game is going to create that positive halo effect for everybody involved. And so whenever you do those long-term deals, now it's not a pick and play per, which on the long term is going to be more expensive for you, and that return won't be there.
So the follow-up is from Discord. In a long-term live service game, is there a normal amount or percentage to pay creators per click on a referral link to join the game? And does it change if they are a free player versus a paying player, since the free player doesn't bring any revenue?
So I have not seen a normal amount of percentage, but it doesn't mean that there isn't one out there. I know for while I was at Shell Games, we used Grin as a content creator management platform, and their standard, because they did a lot of D2C as well, was hovering between 5 to 10%. Not to say that that's right or wrong or high or low. That just seems where the numbers landed. But I would. The best thing to do is to create the type of two-way relationship with your creators. And so if you are able to create a process as your studio, as your company, is like, hey, our typical, you could start low at 5%, and then you can create a ambassador program for those who are going to put out more content, or sending out more referral links, and those links are getting clicked and you see acquisition happening. That was like, well, hey, as one of our higher referral creators, you're now an ambassador, and guess what? Your referral percentage goes up from 5% to 8%, and now that's rewarding the creator, and now the creator is just going to do more, right? So you're creating that cascading effect of getting folks in to your program, and the word will come out. The word always gets out because content creators all talk to each other. And the VR community is very close knit. They all talk to each other, and we all know it. Same with the gaming community overall in general as well. That you have this type of program that rewards based off of performance, and that you have that two-way communication. It's just going to snowball. So if you have the resources to make sure you can keep up with that snowballing effect, that would be fantastic. But that would be my advice. I wouldn't worry too much about what the industry standards are. I would say what makes best sense for you, and what makes the most sense with the creators in which you employ to create a beneficial relationship that you're able to scale.
And it's going to vary. Maybe you're willing to give up more to get more people soon. Having that one that builds to what you need, that's the thing.
That's the thing. Yep.
It's like, what's a good publishing deal? Well, the one that gets your game to market and everybody makes money, not
That's
the
it.
one.
Yep.
There's no set number. Dwayne, this has been fantastic. I greatly appreciate you. And Peb says from one, I don't know how to say that, Yinzer to another.
Yinzer, yeah. Pittsburgh has its own language, and you call themselves Yinzers. Yeah,
got it. Well, all right. This is your chance here. So, what have you got to plug? What do you want to promote? What's coming up from ReedPop?
Man, I've just been excited to be a part of ReedPop and the community. Being with Shell Games, I've been to I think close to 10 PAXs. I've been to all sorts of different events, but there's just something the way that ReedPop puts on an event and gathers the gaming community together. I've just been thrilled to still be on the sidelines a little bit as we figured as they ramp me up to what I'm going to be doing, talking to creators, talking to studios. PAX East was an absolute blast of just to show that events are back is super exciting, and that to let everybody know that ReedPop really cares. It is where fans come first, but they come first because of all the games and experiences that you wonderful people do, and to be a curator of awesome content, to see people be delighted with your work like that makes me happy every day. So thrilled to be here, and thrilled to be able to continue to be an advocate for the gaming community.
Well, we greatly appreciate you. And if anyone has further questions on marketing, Dwayne is on our Discord. Just go to discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. And then, Dan,
bye.
Play us out here.
Thanks so much, Dwayne. That was just an awesome talk. It's super interesting. Thank you again, Tripwire Presents, for sponsoring Indie Game Business and thank you all for hanging out and asking all the questions. Thank you in Discord that's hanging out in the live podcast stage. If you're not on our Discord, you definitely want to be. We've got thousands of amazing game industry folk in there. It's discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. And we have some amazing stuff next week. So we're excited for you guys. And there's Paul Intervenius. I am glad that you found us, Paul, and that you finally found us. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll see everybody next week.
Yes. Bye.